Are you experiencing Axxine hesitancy? I didn't know that was a crime in Canada, but apparently it's subversive as hell. As you can see, I have 4 axes. Therefore, I have no hesitancy whatsoever. They appear to be arranged in a curious way. You can make your own deductions from that. Now, why would a person be hesitant of Axxine? Well, I can tell you why. I might be. See, I'm a 1962, and when I was a little kid, I had a birth defect, and I had to go in and out of doctor's office, specialists, hospitals, operating rooms for surgeries and operations. And while I was in those places, of which there were many before I was 5, I met a number of small children who had no arms and no legs. Where their arms and legs should be, there was curious flippers. And so when I was little, I would play in the playrooms with these little kids. And I felt very sad for them because, you know, they couldn't even really play with a little Hot Wheels car. You know, they could barely even grip it. And they would get quite upset because they couldn't do what I could do because I had full mobility and I could use my hands. So I inquired, you know, my mom basically informed me that these children had been seriously deformed in the womb because their mothers had taken a medication called thalidomide. And tens of thousands of children all across North America were seriously deformed because their mothers had taken this morning sickness medication. And there were several medical companies that were involved in this. To date, not one medical claim has been paid out by those companies or by the Government of Canada. Health Canada approved this in 1961 for consumption, and doctors and physicians were prescribing this to pregnant women. This happened in Canada in my lifetime. And when I was a kid, the knowledge of this traumatized me. I just couldn't believe what a monstrous world we lived in. You know, some kids are scared of monsters under the bed. I was afraid of the terrible monsters in government and that work in medicine that pose as doctors and physicians who would engage in such terrible experimental medications that have not been properly proven or researched. And so as I got older in elementary school, I received several vaccines. They would basically kettle all the children in the gymnasium, and there would be public health nurses there, and they would inject you with, you know, measles, chickenpox, rubella, etc. And I was absolutely terrified because of what I had seen. And I mean, in grade 1, there were several kids who had somehow survived their most horrific deformities and health issues long enough to actually attend school. And one of these kids, Gavin, I remember him clearly, he would sit there in a wheelchair and he couldn't hold a pen. Like, he could kind of hold a pencil, but he had very limited range of mobility because he didn't have forearms or upper arms. He just had flippers on his shoulders, so he would lean over and try to right, but everything was extremely difficult for him, and quite often he'd get very upset and he'd start crying. And he had a full-time attendant who would quite often have to wheel him out to calm him down, or to take him to change his diaper, because, I mean, he, it was awful. And how soon we forget. How soon we forget, you know. Here we are, with a pandemic on our hands, and people are being outed and being, you know, and this is Canada, the land of diversity and inclusion, you know, where diversity is welcome, except diversity of opinion. God forbid you have a different experience. God forbid you express an opinion contrary to the current narrative. Well, history repeats. And the fact is, you are either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. If you're just silently going along and saying and doing nothing in opposition to what is happening, well, honest Canadians are losing their jobs and losing their businesses and losing everything. I mean, I can see very clearly how World War II evolved. It didn't happen all in one day. It was incremental, just like what we have here today in Canada. The unvaccinated are seen as unclean, subhuman, un-Canadian. There are very valid reasons for not wanting to participate in the current narrative. I have some very valid ones myself. Will you stand by, well, honest Canadians, in a land of inclusion and diversity? Will you stand by and do nothing? How long until the unvaccinated are interned and then burned? How long? It took a decade for Germany to get to that point, but Canada seems to be moving very rapidly. And public officials, political people in high office, are publicly denouncing the Axxine hesitant, the unvaccinated. Yeah, this is pure insanity. I'm pretty sure YouTube will somehow sideline this video, as they have. They might even remove it. I don't know. But they said next time I do it, they were gonna take down all my channels. Well, you know, it looks like they're part of the problem, not part of the solution.